I'm doing that because I think that's the kind of video that I really want to be filming from now on, from an autism parent perspective, but also a human being perspective. So I want to figure out how to help my son. And even though I have training and education, I don't always know what to do for him. And I'm constantly trying to figure things out. And maybe what I can do is just make these videos in a way that um, shows that journey. I'll just bring you along. And if you want to watch, if you want to see what that's like, cool. Maybe that's helpful to other people. But in the long run, maybe that's just helpful to me. Maybe I just need to put it out there and to share. Hi, y'all. I haven't done a video in a while, so here's the thing. I'm going to be real with you all. Um, if you haven't been here before, my name is Wendy, and I am a developmental psychologist and parent to a severely autistic teen boy. And I started doing videos a little bit ago, and I haven't done one in a couple of months, a few months. I don't know, it's been a bit. I wanted to do videos about parenting a teen boy and things that might be helpful to other parents. Ooh, I don't have my audio thing on, so let me put that on because that'll probably help. Hold on, let me get it. Okay, that'll be better. The first few videos I did were about some concepts on parenting and maybe what could help us as parents to feel a little bit stronger and a little bit more confident and maybe get a better sense of the kinds of parents we wanted to be to our autistic kids. And I think I started doing that from a place of like, what could I do that might be helpful to other autistic parents? And I'm going to be honest about why I haven't done videos in a little bit. And I think part of it is just reflecting a little bit on myself and how hard it is to do these kinds of videos and how much work it takes that I maybe didn't realize at first. As a parent to an autistic kid, it is super hard to edit and upload and film and do all the prep work to film and all the research it takes to make sure that I don't say anything that could be misleading or misinformation. And even though I am a developmental psychologist, I want to make sure that I have done more research to make sure that I am saying things that are helpful and based in research when I speak. So all that kind of stuff takes a lot of work. And I have to do some of that when my son is at school or when he's asleep. And anyway, it probably was more than I thought it was going to be. Not just speaking from my expertise and my experience as a parent, but having to do a lot of other extra stuff. And then I started thinking, I always do this. I always ask myself, how can I help other people? Like, what can I do to be helpful? And my honest reflection that I've been doing for the last few months is really nobody ever asked me for help. I do this in my life a lot. And when I step back and think about how much I do for no reason, nobody ever really asks me to do anything for them. And I put in all this effort for stuff that in a lot of circumstances isn't really helpful. Then what I want to do is just talk about my experience. And I guess maybe that's the kind of video that I should do. So I want to figure out how to help my son. And even though I have training and education, I don't always know what to do for him. And I'm constantly trying to figure things out. And maybe what I can do is just make these videos in a way that um, shows that journey and can talk about the questions that I ask and the way that I find those answers or look for the answers if I ever find solutions to them or not. I'll just bring you along. And if you want to watch, if you want to see what that's like and talk about what I go through and what it looks like when we play with solutions or try to figure things out, cool. Maybe that's helpful to other people. But in the long run, maybe that's just helpful to me. Maybe I just need to put it out there and to share. And yeah, maybe that's the kind of video that this needs to be from now on. So that said, I've talked a few times in some of the past videos about some things that we've been through with my son lately as he transitions into these teenage years. And I think the gist of what has happened is that a lot of the kind of support that we have gotten has been for younger children. And there is not a lot of support for autism as a person changes from these younger years into adolescence and beyond. And I think maybe there is this all around feeling of like, okay, that's it. We know that they have reached a certain stage of development, that they're not going to gain any more skills or any more capacity or any more ability now. And so here you go. We're handing them off to you as a parent, to society in this state. And this is what they are going to be. And that's kind of what it feels like when you get to this age. And it's like everybody has just thrown their hands up and said, they're cooked. It's awful. I don't even know how to express the kind of dejection that you feel at this point. If you're a younger parent who hasn't quite gotten here yet, um, this is what you have to look forward to. This stage in not only your child's development, but your development as a family, as an ecosystem, where people just say, all right, this is it. They're yours now. So you take it from here. But there's no scaffolding. There's nothing in place for you to take it from here. And I think I'm feeling like, well, okay, we're here. And my son has changed as a person because he's not a kid. So all of these tools and things that they gave us don't work. And his body has changed. So he's got these like hormones and things that an adolescent goes through. And, he's dealing with pretty normal stuff like, hey, I want friends and I'm kind of lonely. And there's this big world out there that I want to experience, just like all teenagers feel. But he's frustrated by the fact that he can't talk and that other people don't understand him like other teenagers feel. But they're exacerbated, these feelings that other teenagers would normally have, by all of these other things that autism give him. These things like not being able to talk, these extra feelings of not being understood because he really isn't understood. These feelings of not belonging because he really doesn't belong. The world really doesn't see him. And he's feeling these things at like 100 times fold that other teenagers usually feel. And there's nothing to help him through it. I don't know how to help him through it. And, his high school, although it's full of some really kind people, don't see him as going through these things the way that other kids are going through them and don't have tools for him and have that same feeling of like, oh, these are his limitations. And we're going to just work with these little limitations that he has. And they don't see the whole person. And part of the fact that he is an intelligent boy feeling frustrated, going through these changes has led to some behavioral problems with him. And I see almost like locked in syndrome. Like, have you ever seen those awful TV shows or books or some dramatic stories where a person can't move their body, but their mind is awake? And it's like horror stories where they can see everything around them and hear everything around them, but nobody knows that they're in there. Sometimes I see my son and I think that he has some version of that he is like this brilliant mind in a body, a neurological system that doesn't respond the way that it needs to show how brilliant and wonderful he is. And I feel this frustration for him. I want the rest of the world to see that beautiful, brilliant person. And I don't know how to bring it out so other people can see him. And I feel that same anger that he feels. And I sometimes feel like that angry teenager with him. And it brings me to this issue I've been reading about called co-regulation. And I was going to do a video on this for other parents about what does co-regulation look like as teenagers grow up. I just want to talk you through what I've been thinking as I look at him and want to work with him because I'm feeling the same kind of anger that I think he feels as a teenager. And I'm trying to co-regulate with him and thinking, well, heck, if I can't control my anger and my emotions, how can I co-regulate with him the way that I'm supposed to, in a sustained long-term kind of environment that's supposed to maintain the tenor of the house? My emotions need to, in the long run, set the tone. But I'm angry too, and I'm burnt out too. But I have to co-regulate. And this isn't like when you have a toddler or a young, school age child that throws a tantrum. And you think of co-regulation as, okay, they're freaking out, so I'm going to stay calm. And if I do not match that level of intensity, then they will come down to where I am. And that is a level of co regulation that I can manage, right? That is something that we learn earlier on as autism parents and something that's easier to grasp. But that is an acute moment. And those acute moments are critical. And we learn to manage them in that way, in that sort of acuteness that happens in stores, that happens in our homes often, several times a day. And they're exhausting and they're meaningful and they're important. And that practice sets us up for what it looks like as we get older and they get older because we're in this together. But co regulation looks different as the child ages and you age because your child starts to burn out. Autism burnout isn't just something that occurs when we think of a lot of. I'm careful about the terms that I want to use here because there's so much almost politics around levels of autism. And when people say things like high functioning and low functioning and profound autism, and people get all worked up and emotional about what those things mean. But a lot of times we hear people say things like being burned out around the idea of being high functioning in autism. And people can talk about themselves when they are high functioning autistic as getting burnt out because they can express the level of stress that they feel in social relationships and how it drains them and the sensory input drains them. And they can talk about their burnout. And we can be familiar with that term from that point of view. But that happens for severely autistic people and profoundly autistic people like my son to a greater extent. And by the time they get to be like my son's age, and they have been dealing with years of people making them process sensory information in a way that's counter to their nervous system, they burn out. Their nervous systems burn out also, or can. I won't say they all do. I can't say that for sure, right? And I don't want to talk like I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor, a medical doctor. I'm not even a clinical psychologist, but this is possible. And I won't diagnose anybody, but I think my son might be feeling that, or that's what I'm afraid of right now as a parent who sees him struggling with his behavior at this point. And I have matched a level of burnout. And I think maybe my husband has also, with all of us trying to manage our behavior in a way that meets his needs and him trying to manage his behavior in a way that meets the needs of his environment. We're all burned out. And I think that has led to him experiencing these cycles of acting out where he shows a lot of aggression. I mean, I don't know if you can see, I have like scars all up and down my arm. I have bite marks on my chest. I mean, I've been through things with my son in the last few years, to the extent that I stopped working full time because trying to explain to other people in my professional life the chaos of my home. I mean, I got tired of it. And trying to bring people along in a journey when you say your son has autism and they're thinking things like, oh, your son is having trouble learning in school. And you have to say something like, no, my son has a kind of autism where he could be institutionalized. They don't get it, even though they're psychologists too. All those things have brought us to a point of like, Jesus, we're chugging along, like barely chugging along. We're all burnt out. He's burnt out. Anyway, that all kind of leads to cycles of co-regulation that look really, really different from the acute cycles of younger autistic children. Co-regulation now is not an acute, my son is having a meltdown. I need to take deep breaths and model what I need him to look like in this, moment. Yes, there are those acute cycles, and there are many of them when he's having bad, sustained burnout kind of moments. But for him now, co-regulation has to be a sustained tenor. For the whole family, we have to work together to keep a tone in the house that is always modeling a sort of vibrato of like, we can get a little upset about things, but we got to keep it around a calm center. We can escalate like this much, but come back down real quick. Um, and that's hard to do when you as a person are also at a place of exhaustion and a place of confusion and trying to make sense of your anger and frustration and feeling for their anger and frustration and trying to sustain advocacy from a place that requires you to have fire in your belly, but never around the person that you're advocating for. and needing to keep an energy in order for the whole house to function without depression and without exhaustion, but never letting the energy become a kind of energy that's too erratic or chaotic. And I mean, everything is this careful balance all the freaking time. And you can't ever let it get too much of this or too little of that. How do you sustain that kind of co-regulation? And I think, from the research, the things that I've been trying to learn about, it's it's not a question of never becoming dysregulated, because in a place of chaos like this, which is where we live, we're at the center of chaos. We're in the center of the tornado or the hurricane all the time. That's where we live. It is a massive vibrating tension all the time. Something is going to break loose and send something else into chaos all the time, at any given time. And, you know, you're not going to avoid dysregulation either in yourself as a human being, your partner, your other members of the family. What is key is being able to get back to center as quickly as possible and figuring out what those things are. Like, what's your toolkit that can bring you back when things do get crazy, because they will get crazy. And you have to become comfortable with that. It's going to be crazy and that's okay. And being able to try to sustain a level of regulation is nearly impossible. So for everybody's sake, whatever the characteristics of the family are, being able to construct a toolkit of things that bring you to center when things become dysregulated is a feature of, I won't say sanity, but maybe something that can bring you to a version of sanity closer, than not, is good, right? What are things for you that you can think of? I mean, for our family, I bead, I make jewelry right now. I mean, I used to work, and work was a thing that for me functionally was always a safe place. And that was before my son. I grew up with a hard life. I did not have a functional family environment as a child, as an adolescent, as a grown up. And I did things in my life like become a psychologist, because the way that I survived, my own inherited trauma was to work. It was the way that I escaped. And so I always found sanity in that. And when I had to give up my career to be with my son, it was like becoming untethered, the thing that always brought me safety. But really, as troubles with my son became harder to deal with, work became less of a place of safety, because it was more and more a problem to try to be a good professional, a good employee, and a good mother. And things at work started to fall apart. It could not be a place where I sought refuge when things at home got hard. It just couldn't. And I think, I had to let go of that and find something else that made me feel safe, and something that was low pressure, where I wasn't expected to perform a certain way and really did feel safe. I was on my own terms. I could do my own thing when I felt like it, when my son wasn't around. There was no deadlines, something that really did make me feel calm. So I picked up hobbies. I left work. I was lucky enough that I could do that. I could be a stay at home mom. It's not easy, not only emotionally, but financially, it's not easy on us. But one of us has to be home. And I had to find another way to come to a place of safety, psychological safety, spiritual safety, whatever it takes. And even if it's just moments, I see things online where people say things like, I hide in the bathroom for 5 seconds. That's okay. That's healthy. That's normal. You do that. And that makes you feel like you can come back out and look at your family without screaming. Good, do that. If you need to go look out the window and find a little bird to stare at for 10 seconds, or you need to close your eyes and take some deep breaths, or go drink a nice cold glass of water, splash your face, whatever, put it in your toolkit. The thing that makes you feel okay, put it in your toolkit. And those are not going to be sustainable, fill your well things, but in the moment can bring you back to calm. And then you have to find things that are more fill your well kind of things that you can do when your child goes to sleep for 5 minutes a day, or I don't know, maybe on the weekend for an hour when somebody else can watch your child. Or I know those may be big dreams that you can have an hour to yourself for a week. I know they're big dreams, but when they really matter, when they really fill your well, you will do them. Even if it means you don't sleep for an hour, you will do them. And if they really do help you, you'll figure them out. But that's the bottom line, is find a thing that fills your toolkit so that you can shorten your recovery window when things become dysregulated. So I think that is one of the key things for us right now. That's the first thing I'm going to work on with my family after figuring out that co-regulation is a big thing for me right now. And for us, after reflecting and figuring out that we're not working with acute circumstances right now. We're working with prolonged, prolonged issues of burnout through the whole family. They look different and feel different for each of us. My son's autistic burnout is its own version of drain and is leading to his own behavioral circumstances. And my version of burnout as a parent to him, but also as a human being who has been through so much and arrived at a point now where I parent a disabled child, is its own version of exhaustion, leading to my own behaviors as a parent to him. And my husband, who has been through so much with me, and as a man, as his own person, who I will not talk about. That's his own business to talk about when he wants to, has his own version of burnout, who is also now arrived at a point to, after everything he's been through, is a parent to disabled child. We all have our own version of reasons for acting the way that we act now that are not necessarily healthy and conducive to co-regulation. And we are creating an ecosystem together that has to function as an autism family. And we have to respond to each other in a way that maintains the tenor of the household so that it is not constantly dysregulated and chaotic. But when it does become dysregulated, we need to have tools for coming back to center as quickly as possible so that things don't become so chaotic that we can't reach stasis again without a lot of support. We have to be able to get back to center quickly, or else we'll need too much help to regain control of our family. And I think we need to explore what that looks like and figure that out a little bit and play with those resources as a family, and then figure out how that looks like individually for ourselves and then for each other, how to support each other. All right. So I guess I'll explore that and talk you guys through it and see what it looks like. And I'll come back and update you all as we get through it. All right. Well, thanks for joining. And if you want to hear more and stick around, like, subscribe, let me know that you're out there. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.